Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to be talking about Vince Staples' Broken Heart. His new album is called Ramona Park Broke My Heart. At first I was like, who's that? Turns out Ramona Park is not a person, it is a place in Long Beach. And I think that the title, the long, interesting title, is essential to understanding the meaning of the album. This is actually something of a concept album with one theme that goes all the way throughout. It is an important, meaningful theme that ties this album together and makes it another very, very high quality, very interesting, socially relevant rap album to come out within the last month. I mean, I already in my head had Denzel Curry and Vince Staples mixed up in my head because the only thing I'd reviewed of either of them were EPs that were all the beats by Kenny Beats. But here they're getting mixed up in my head again because they've both released these amazingly cohesive, well-made albums that are some of the best examples of what hip-hop can do in both sort of staying street while also making commentary at the highest level, social commentary on the highest level. But what is the thesis? What is the thesis of Ramona Park Broke My Heart? Or as we would say it where I come from in Boston, Ramona Park Broke My Hat. Money made me numb. That is the theme. The last track, that is one line which is repeated over and over again, almost like a mantra, almost like a Playboy Cardi line. You know, it's not taking shirts off and having hoes stop breathing. It's money made me numb, money made me numb. But let's analyze that because that's what this album is about. What happens when your heart is broken? He's not just saying like, oh, I'm sad. He's referring to having a broken, non-functional emotional system. No emotional regulation, no connection. He is numb, and he is numb through money. But let's go deeper than that, because it's not just that he's rich, and that's why he's numb. It's that he comes from insecurity. He comes from poverty. He comes from the wealth gap. And what he's describing all the way throughout this album is what life is like for people like him in areas like Ramona Park in Long Beach, California. Familial love barely exists. It is so strained under the weights of capitalism and the need to find and make money. Romantic relationships are solely transactional, as everybody tries to get out of poverty any way they can, even through romantic entanglements. Friendships are basically non-existent. I think the word friend is only used once on this album, and it is in the context of the following line, no friends in gangland. Where is the love? The love is with money, direct deposits, bags, racks. The love is with guns, which allows to get money in illegal ways. This album, I think, is a wonderful companion piece to one of the best YouTube videos of the year, made by FD Signifier, all about Will Smith and about this slap, but it's actually much deeper. It's about the trauma of black boyhood. I'm going to include a link to it up there. Frankly, that video is way better than this video is going to be. So, as far as I'm concerned, you should just leave this video, go watch FD Signifier, and then go down the FD Signifier, rabbit hole and just watch all of his videos again. But this video is very interesting because in that he describes what this album describes. How a lot of the people that he worked with when he was working in rough parts of Atlanta, I believe it was Atlanta, a lot of these young boys had sort of a flat affect. They sort of had a numbness about them, something that turns into nihilism, a refusal to sort of believe in anything. This money numbs them, but it's not the presence of money, it is the absence of money. It is the absence of inequality. It turns many into monsters. And that's the other key theme. So I want to have a couple of themes in your mind while you're listening to this album. It's about being numb through money, but that's sort of like there's different levels to what money and poverty can do to you, as is shown on this great album. Where Vince Staples is he's numb, and that's bad. But he also illustrates the step below, which is being turned into a monster. Don't worry, your language professor is going to completely break down the meaning and the nature of the word monster before the end of this video. Without quoting Jay-Z, Godzilla. His voice is great. I mean, I really like his flow. I mean, what I like about his style is he has kind of a high voice, but it's never aggravating. He has kind of a sleepy delivery, but he never mumbles. He's very like adept as a wordsmith, but he's never quite flashy. He has a good flow, but he's never quite flashy. He just sort of has this very nice, I'm not going to say relaxing, but a very easy way. I think that's what I said in my last review of his previous EP, is he's very cool. He's not out there trying to get all this information out there and trying to blow your mind with his crazy words. He's very cool. One thing that this does is this allows certain lines to jump out. So in general, the album goes along and it sounds nice, and then certain lines will pop out. And I'm going to draw your attention to those lines. Also, please smash the like bucket, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what other lines from this album that you like. Because if I have one complaint about it, is that it's so easy to get into the groove of this album. Sometimes I miss some of the details. The beats are good. I'm not sure if they're great. I'm not sure they rise to the level of the concept of the album. It's a little bit hard to tell though, because there's this great sort of back and forth between kind of straight hip-hop songs and then real attempts at having some kind of summer jam, some kind of like banger, some kind of pop hit. Like there's this nice kind of back and forth between a little bit more poppy and a little bit less poppy. So I can't quite tell if that's intentional. It might actually be this album is perfectly produced because it's trying to be in this space. And maybe if Kenny Beats did the entire thing like he did the last one, every beat was amazing, it wouldn't have this great sort of West Coast vibe, and the whole thing feels very LA. It reminds me a lot of gangster rap from the last 30 years, but it never feels like it's trying to imitate it. It just feels like it's in that continuum. Two things I learned about Vince Staples since I started reviewing this album. Apparently he's straight edge, which is just cool. And apparently when he was a kid, he played on Snoop's football team in Long Beach. So Snoop Dogg, has like a youth thing for football, and I never realized how cool it was that he did that until I read someone describing how important it was for him. But let's get to the album. Vince Staples' album, before I pull out 17th century French theater for you. Let's talk about the beginning song, which is going to be my stamp, my example song. It's the best song on the album. It's just great. The Beach. I'm going to include a link to it up there. If you're back from watching the FD Signifier video, welcome back. What we hear is the sound of seagulls and the sound of the ocean. And in this way, I think he's sort of taking his place in England, right? It's an island. So often a beach is portrayed as a lonely place. If we think about The Who and their album Quadrophenia, the main character is often sort of alone on the beach thinking about things, and the sound of the seagulls are like the sounds of his loneliness. If we think of A Hard Day's Night with Ringo Starr walking around to the song This Boy up there in Liverpool, it has the same kind of sense. The way that the ocean sounds and that the ocean, the beach is implied is great because it's an inversion of what you normally expect. If I told you there's a song called The Beach, you might think it's a surf song or a happy song, There's nothing happy about this. It is desolate and it is sad. It is like a passage of loneliness. And as you hear, you've just listened to the song, I hope, his great high, cool voice, the great organ that's going the way throughout here. There's 2 tracks on this album with no drums, the first one and the last one. It's part of what gives it this whole feel. This album really feels like a whole feel. Nice, calm voice. Again, I think his voice is partly calm because he's numb. I think the cutest rhymes are on this song, or at least the most sort of flashy. Growing up, we ain't had no lights unless it said to check the engine. This is a particular West Coast thing, right? Because it's not like on the East Coast. If you're living in poverty, you probably don't have a car. You don't need to have a car in New York, but you do need a car in the West Coast. So that's kind of a nice little indicator there. Unless we had to spark the wick, show somebody we miss them. In the city, baby, your first rap might be can be a murder rap. So tying in a lot of themes of incarceration and crime. And the whole song ends, and it feels like it's about to kick in. And it's the most frustrating thing about this album is actually the beginning of this song. It feels like it's about to kick in, and here come the drums. But instead, there's a sound of gunshots and people clapping. So there's another subtext, another sort of secondary theme on this album, and that is of the gang life and urban blight and West Coast California as being entertainment. Entertainment in particular for crackers. That's the word that's used, and I think that's intentional why it ends like that. The way this album is so nice is the way it flows from kind of a serious song like that to a still serious but much lighter song, Ayo, Free the Homies, which is track 2. Starts off with this kind of quote, and all the way throughout the album, there are these quotes from people that give it kind of a cinematic feel, and he's singing a little bit in his delivery here, very LA style, but it leads so well from the previous song. This has some drums, very kind of cool downbeat West Coast rap style, even makes direct reference to Suge Knight, a very catchy chorus, and just this theme, if I had one wish, I'd free the homies, which again is, when we talk about, on this channel, I think all gangster rap is inherently political because I think it all underlies the failure of our society to stop the rise of gangster rap. Like it's a clear sign that our society has failed when the wealth gap is this great and when people are pushed into this state of desperation. And nowhere is that better seen than in the criminal justice system. So again, it's just a song, hey, I'd free the homies, and it's kind of a dancing song, and I could see this being a hit. But at the same time, it's really, really dark. There's also one of these themes that keeps coming back. When I'm talking about money makes me numb, why his heart is broken, this guy does not care about women at all. I would never chase the cat, rather chase a bag. Constantly, there's a juxtaposition between money and women, money and friends, money and fame, and all he wants is the money. At the end, there's sort of this quote from a kid, again, sort of about this, sort of like about life on the street, that then leads into a song called DJ Quick, which is cool because it sounds like there's actual scratching going on here, which you don't hear very often in modern hip hop. Very low key sounds, some sounds in the background as well. And here he's quoting DJ Quick over and over again. If it doesn't make dollars, then it doesn't make sense. And just as a little side note, if you don't know, this is in reference to a song that DJ Quick made where he was doing a battle rap against Compton's Most Wanted. This is way back in the 80s. And they were battling back and forth, kind of along gang lines, but not exclusively. And they were sort of fighting against each other. And so this is a direct attack on MC8. Kind of interesting fact there. But really, it's this idea that fame doesn't matter. All that matters is money. He talks about having guns and a couple Crips, and he's happy being there. What I find interesting here is that he constantly talks about like Bloods and Crips at the same time. And he talks about having a couple Crips with him. And DJ Quick himself famously does not have a C in his name. Apparently, I was told when I was in middle school, because he doesn't want to have the letter C, which could represent Crips. I don't even know if that's true, but that's what I always heard. But there is a kind of post-gang feeling in this album. Like it's describing gang life, but it's never glorifying it, and it's never taking a side on either the Bloods or the Crips, which I think is the only reasonable position. We hear an outro in the back with this kind of warbled voice saying, love could never pay the bills. And once you start paying attention to this album, you realize this whole theme about money and numbness and love and just the death of love and the inability of love to exist, any kind of love cannot exist in Los Angeles in the 90s and the early 2000s. It's a loveless world with everybody constantly trying to get enough money to live. Next song is called Magic. What a party song. I mean, we don't have like summer jams anymore. I don't think it seems like we have summer songs anymore. There's like 3 or 4 times on this album where it feels like Vince Staples is like, this is going to rule the summer. No, this is going to rule the summer. And Magic might rule the summer. You can tell that they're trying really hard on the pop end because the chorus starts off the song and ends it, and it's repeated a lot. A very kind of well-sung verse. I really like this verse. 100 miles and running through the public housing, moving mountains, F who I was stumping down with, gunning down-ish, sitting in the back of Crown Vic, so janky. Know them down the street still hate me. just the back of the Vicks and gunning down Ish and stomping with, just really nice play. His flow will like vary a little bit. It's never very flashy again, but it does vary a little bit. The second verse again has a direct reference to Crips and Bloods at the same time. And then at the end, Mustard, who I guess is one of the co-producers on the album, talks about how it's magic that he made it and that they both made it and had this success. And then he says, tell me what's magic to you. And I realized, like, is he looking for comments? Because he says, tell us what's magic to you. And I'm just listening to this on title. How am I going to tell him? I think this is the first instance I can think of a musician soliciting YouTube comments. So, I guess I can ask you, what's magic to you? It's a stupid question. Don't answer that. Don't answer that unless you want to like be funny and like ironically do what I ask you not to do, which is kind of funny. So don't tell me what's magic in the comments. Next song is Nameless, and this is it's just soul crushing. I mean, this album is so funny because it's so upbeat and danceable, but it's also so miserable. So this is just a straight up interlude with some young black kid from some period of time speaking, talking about gun violence and being very wise beyond his years. Did you shoot someone? That's what they said. Several times. That's what they said. Were they right? I don't know. Bullets don't have names. Okay. So we have this weird half confession, half not confession that then leads into the song When Sparks Fly. A gorgeous beat on here. Like, it reminds me a lot of sort of an Outkast beat. I forget which one. Maybe Rosa Parks. You know, that like kind of like bouncy with super heavy echo. That just sounds so good. A very long intro with the soul sample. This is probably the best beat on the album, and it's a love story. So I was wrong. This is a very beautiful love story, all about these kind of star-crossed lovers, and he's really sad because he can't always be with her, and he's like, and she's put away, and he can't do anything. And I'm just kidding. It's not at all a song about a woman. It's a song about a gun. And immediately, what we think about is Nas, who also has a song written to a gun, but I think this is better. Jesus Christ. The Nas fans are going to get me. I love Nas. You can tell me in the comments that I'm wrong. It's okay. Nas fans and Bob Dylan fans. If I ever go missing, just go to like a Bob Dylan and Nas message board. It'll be one of those two groups. I love Nas's song. That's a love song to a gun. But I think in the context of this album, this fits better. This feels more organic. It feels more in keeping with this theme of being numb. And then it ends again with another voice. What sounds like it could be a wife or a mother of somebody. He's in jail right now for something that he had no business doing. What did he do? They say he killed somebody. So this creates a whole narrative where maybe he's talking about the kid in the beginning. Maybe this is the mother of the kid in the beginning, or the brother of the kid in the beginning. And in both cases, it's not clear if the kid actually did a crime, but it's in this state of just shouldn't have happened. And basically, almost everybody in this album appears to be destined for death or jail. And it's really sad and really dark, but the thing is that it's not preachy. And maybe that's where I think he does better than Nas does. On Nas' song, I always feel it's a little bit preachy. It's good, but it's a little bit preachy. Not here. This album is not preachy. Say preachy again. Next song is called East Point Prayer. And you're probably going to skip to this one because it features Lil Baby. And it's produced by Kenny Beats. And I don't blame you. Kenny Beats' beat on this is so good. It just grows in depth and has so much texture. You know, like he's like out there like producing for idols, and he's out here producing for Vince Staples. He's really doing a lot here. I think he really is making his claim to be the next Rick Rubin. Again, more rapping about money, very gentle rapping. Again, how is he able to be so sleepy without being mumbled? I don't know how he's able to do it. He's like sleepy without ever sounding bored or boring. Talking about never being Hollywood. The drums kind of come in and out. Bought a 40 cal out at the Jordan Downs. Married to the streets, know she get around. So again, this theme of love and marriage is always about the streets, about the money. And then Lil Baby comes in, and thank you to all of you who are watching this channel. Now, I'd be doing this channel if I had nobody watching. I would. I mean, you watch my early videos, I have like, most of my first year, all my videos have less than 50 views. I'm happy. I was happy doing it. But the main reason I'm happy doing it is that it's forcing me, an old head who only thinks about Wu-Tang and Nas and Jay-Z, to sit there. I can't call myself a head. An old man who loves hip-hop. You know, like forcing me to come to terms with the new rap and the new sound. And Lil Baby is the best argument for this new sound. This sing-songy, pop / rap / emo, whatever the hell it is. God damn, every time he's on something, he's good. He's so good on this. He even like makes a brief reference to a previous Vince Staples project. It's clear he's like thinking about what he's doing. He's not just taking a rack and then leaving. And it's a perfect match. I would love an album of Lil Baby and Vince Staples, because Lil Baby does the same thing where you might call him a mumble rapper if you're not paying attention, but he doesn't mumble. And he has like a lot of passion to the way that he talks and the way that he sings, and the way that plays off of the numbness of Vince Staples, the intentional numbness of Vince Staples. It's great. I mean, what more proof could you possibly need that like rap is alive and doing great, interesting things when two of the biggest people doing it are this good? Next song is called Slide. It starts off, again, another quote, another just random, and I don't know, the album just came out, so maybe we'll find out where all these clips come from. It's sad. It's sad because you don't know where they come from, and they're all like about death and misery and shooting and jail. So it's this boy describing a drive-by, and it's cool, kind of like a 90s style pop rap song. Just slide, slide, slide. And it has a very interesting line, one of these lines that jumps out at you. Love my mama 'cause she do her best. It's an interesting idea. I love my mama 'cause she do her best. So it's not that she did great, but she does her best. And this is going to be another theme throughout the album. The inability, when struggling in this state of poverty and struggling with the wealth gap and the semi-intentionally created crack crisis and semi-intentionally created ghettoization of certain areas of America, and the very intentional segregation of housing and of neighborhoods throughout the country. Like, I love my mama 'cause she do her best. Implied in that is such sadness. Coming up next is Paper Cuts. Paper Cuts is my favorite song. Paper Cuts. This song. Really weird beat, this nice kind of falsetto loop, like a weird soul thing, and then like a trap beat comes in, and there's this great first verse. And I'm obsessed with Tupac, not so much in the way I'm obsessed with him, but I'm obsessed with his impact and the way other people quote him. And I think, this is my theory, that this entire verse is supposed to be a Tupac verse. Now he quotes Tupac at the end. Picture me rolling vividly. So picture me rolling is a Tupac line. But the rest of it, in particular with its emphasis on enemies, to me sounds like it's Tupac. They want to know if I'm in the street or if I still feel a way about the enemies. If I went and died today, who remember me? Just keep it real with me. I didn't need no sympathy. I hate the industry, missing sleep, been some weeks, counting money up while they counting sheep. Used to picture me rolling vividly. Like, I'm delivering it like a 44-year-old white guy who's trying to sound like Tupac without looking like he's trying to sound like Tupac. That's what I just did right there. But that's not at all how Staples delivers it. But I think that's kind of intentional. I think it's supposed to feel like a Tupac verse, and then it makes sense because the chorus has a great high, whiny West Coast sound. Again, more and more, it's all about the bread. I don't give an F. And even the image of a paper cut is interesting. Because I think the idea is that he has so much money, he's counting so much money that he gets a paper cut. But think about that. Like, that's like the blood. Like, paper cuts suck, right? Like, it hurts. So I think that's an interesting image of like the pain that comes from counting the money, that you're happy to have the money, that you'll accept the pain. You'll accept the consequence. Ain't no love, ain't no peace when you broke in these streets. Again, the theme of the album, again and again. He talks about who he doesn't love, the women, all that. What he loves are his direct deposits. That's what he says. I hate direct deposit. I love getting checks, you know? You get to feel like a cool guy. But what he loves is the money. Then we get to Lemonade. Again, this is going to be the summer jam. This is going to be the jam of the summer. It's kind of cute, kind of poppy, great chorus that, again, he starts with, rhyming lemonade and shade, which is great. Nice kind of booms in the production. It shows that he can do pop. He really can do pop. Like if he wanted to go full pop, he could have released a full pop rap album. He just didn't choose to. Ty Dolla $ign is here. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I love Ty Dolla $ign when he features. I listened to his album. I didn't love it. But every time, like, if I see his name on a featuring, I'm just like, that track's going to be good. Because he's always good. Again, this is the song that mentions no friends in the gangland. And Ty Dolla $ign, his whole verse is great. It's very kind of Montel Jordan-y. Just perfect. Also, speaking of 1989, which was when I was introduced to a lot of gangster rap, and the song and the word lemonade, it reminds me of when I saw Batman for the first time in 1989, the original movie with Michael Keaton. And I went like on the fourth day because everything else was sold out. I went to this really weird theater in a not great part of Boston. And there was this dude who was like 2 rows behind me who must have been stoned out of his ass. And the entire movie, he would not shut up, going, lemonade, 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 love my lemonade. Like, I don't know if he was like trying to get people pissed at him, but every time I see the word lemonade, or I think of the 1989 Batman movie, I just hear lemonade, 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 because the guy would not stop saying lemonade, lemonade. Player Ways is the next song. This is about effing the pain away, about how all the women are in love with him, but it's going back to the same idea of just, I'm not in love with anybody, very clearly stating his boundaries. His boundaries are, he doesn't love these women, he's not interested in them. A great final verse, very kind of the most charismatic effort of his voice. And then again, we have kind of a woman speaking in the back, then leads into Mama's Boy. If I could lead you to another FD Signifier video, after you watch that one about Will Smith, he has a great video about the movie Baby Boy, the John Singleton movie, which I knew was a great movie when it came out, but I couldn't say why, and he made a good video about that. Kind of interesting theme of Mama's Boy, beautiful song. Continuing on the theme of money over connections, kind of a West Coast slow jam. You know, this is what I consider to be a vibe. I mean, I know the term vibe has changed over the years, but for me, this is what I would consider to be a vibe, based on how I associate vibing with music. Live for the money, die for the dollars. And in the chorus, he talks about, like, I love this-ish like I love my mama. And there's the sample on my mama, on my mama. And so what he's saying that he loves is he loves making money the way he loves his mother. So we're all the way back again to this theme that goes all the way throughout. How terrible is that? To love making money the way you love your mother. I mean, it's not supposed to be sad. You could listen to the song and be like, cool, I'm my mama, I'm my mama. But then if you actually think about it, it's so sad. Bang That, another song featuring Mustard, kind of forgettable. I like the backwards hi-hat sound. I like the line, crackers want the gang trap. I like, it's true, you know, that a lot of the reason that gangster rap and the themes of gangster rap and the crack deal, the crack business are so popular is because of the white audience, myself included. I like that being explicitly explained. And then we get to the song, the interstitial bit, The Spirit of Monster Cody. I think this, in addition to Nameless, are the very heart of this album. So Nameless shows a young boy who is a murderer and describes it as maybe being kind of fun, but just seems very, that kind of flat affect, that kind of numbness. Here we have Monster Cody, who is a famous gangbanger from LA, who went to jail and wrote a book about being a gangster. And so in this interview, he says, like, no one can believe that I wrote that because all they want you to do is get thrown in jail and join a gang and get killed. And he goes on this whole beautiful militant run explaining how he is just supposed to die. Like, his job on earth is to join a gang, get killed, go to jail, that is why he exists. This kind of desperation. And again, I claim no expertise at all. I am an observer. And what I do as an observer is I just believe people when they tell me something. So between the FD Signifier video and between this album, I am just believing this numbness. I am believing this problem, this feeling that you are expected to only have a certain number of outcomes and that your certain number of outcomes are all negative. Like I don't feel that way about myself. I've never felt that way. That's, the privilege or whatever. All I can do is believe that is how it is. That's why rap music is so important, because how else are people like me going to understand this kind of life or these expectations or this life experience? That's it tells the truth to people who may not want to hear it or who can't hear it. And it also tells the truth of people who don't always have a voice. So, the spirit of Monster Cody, and that's who it is who's talking, somebody who is known as Monster Cody. Now, the story of Monster Cody is a fascinating one. And I think Vince Staples is telling you to look into it. So just look up Monster Cody, his life. Like, he was called Monster because he basically stomped an old man into a coma when he was 13. That numbness. In and out of jail, converted to Islam, wrote a book, went back to jail, got out of jail, and who knows, I mean, hopefully everything's going great for Monster Cody now. I'm sure everything's fine, because as he described, nobody wanted him to write a book. And everybody expected him just to die or to be a killer. And his story is a story of hope, that you can get out. You don't have to have that life. Or you can die in a homeless encampment alone at the age of 57, which is how Monster Cody died. So what is this album about? It's partly about this spirit of Monster Cody. Monster. What does monster even mean? Monster is very important. So I said I'd bring up Racine. He's a great playwright. He wrote a lot of great tragedies. And one of the main themes that he talked about was monstrosity. The way he described it is primarily people who go against human nature. Not that they're scary, but that you can't relate to them because they represent something unhuman. The actual history of the word monster is more interesting, though. It comes from early 14th century, monstre, malformed animal or human, creature afflicted with a birth defect. From Old French monstre, monster, monstrosity, 12th century, directly borrowed from Latin monstrum, divine omen, especially one indicating misfortune, sign, abnormal shape, monstrosity. Figuratively, a repulsive character, object of dread. A derivative of monere, to remind, to bring to recollection, to instruct, warn, advise, and teach. I don't think that's what Vince Staples... I don't think Vince Staples is sitting there with an etymological dictionary doing that. But I do think it is what the spirit of Monster Cody can do. It's not just that he's inhuman. He is a reminder of the system that he participated in, that he described, and that ultimately he fell victim to. He brings to recollection. He admonishes, he advises us, and warns us. And through Vince Staples, who himself does not glorify gang life, who does not glorify violence or sex and drugs or any of that. Like, to have these figures all together, it makes it such a cohesive and agreeable political message. Which, again, is not, say it with me, not preachy. Rose Street is another song about not being a love song. Didn't write no love songs, going on. Talked about, like, I'm married to the gang life. I only bring flowers to the grave. And at the end, you hear someone say, you hear someone say, Long Beach flowers, what do you want? The album ends with a song called The Blues, without drums, guitar, and ocean sounds. Again, we have the image of Vince Staples as a lonely kid walking along the beach with the seagulls going, "If I die, give me your love, forgive me. I've never been an open book. Money made me numb, money made me numb, money made me numb." So this numbness is everywhere. I forgot to even read it on the notes. At the end of that song, Mama's Boy, we have a quote with someone who directly says, "If I didn't have to work 3 jobs, maybe I could have spent more time with him and he wouldn't have become a monster." Is this Monster Cody's mother? Is this announcing? Is this Vince Staples' mother? Is this the mother of that little boy who shot the person who was going to jail? We don't know. But we see all the way throughout. A mother is incapable of providing the kind of love and comfort she needs because she needs to earn enough money to live. A son feels towards his mother that he loves her because she did her best. No friendship, no love, no nothing. We have a broken heart, and money has made us numb. It's a great album. It really is. And it might actually grow because the soundscape, like I said, is not spectacular, but it's so consistent that it might end up being that in a year or so we look back and just go, wow, how is that album perfectly produced? I can't determine that yet. I'm releasing this like 2 days after it came out. This is my weekend show. I got a lot of albums to review this week. I don't know if I'm going to get to them all. But this is my weekend show, so that means that I like to thank my Patreons, speaking of money, which is not making me numb. So these are the people who help me out, and I just keep getting more, which is awesome, but it makes this little bit more and more complicated. So thank you to all those people. The new people are at the end there, so thank you so much for supporting me. And if you want to support me, patreon.com/Professor Sky. All right. Here's the camera.